Bonjour, mis hermanos and sisters. It's your boy T, guys, and I'll pretend to be Colin Gibson, but Rob Rottler as well. And there you go. Yeah, we got Rob to substitute for your intro, but Rob Rottler on here. Unfortunately, Gib, just with the way timing worked out, we couldn't have him on here, but he'll be on the next one, of course. We've been really looking forward to Rob being on the call. I mean, for weeks now, and just some rescheduling, some other scheduling going on with ourselves at Local Standouts. And anyways, we're just so grateful to have Rob on the call. Guys, he is a former Wartburg football captain. He is a former science teacher, a former part-time realtor, and now switched over to full-time. He is one of Tri-State's finest. He is Rob Rottler. Rob, thank you for being on here, bro.
Tyler, thanks for having me, man. I love that intro. So much energy. I'm even more excited right now. This is great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, Rob, the way we like to start off all these calls, first and foremost, is with you. This is a cool time for people to take off the realtor hat off you, or maybe this is just exactly who you are. But what we want to know from Rob's mouth, who is Rob Rottler? When you think of yourself, who are you?
Ooh, man, that's a great question. Who I am. So I guess first I'm a husband, and I'm a brother and, son to my family. And then, obviously a husband to my wife, dog dad. Got a couple dogs that I live with here in Dubuque. And so Dubuque resident for the last 3 years, going almost 3.5 years. I am somebody who I learn from seeing other people doing things, and I am able to pick up on those type of things. So really, I don't think of myself as super smart or like crazy skilled or knowledgeable or anything like that. I just can see what other people do, and I pick up on trends. I think success leaves clues, and I'm focused on learning and growing. And so those things come by me, those clues come by me, and I see that pretty regularly. And I guess I'm just somebody who's really focused in life and intentional in what I do and thoughtful, and like to have fun every now and then, and do some things outdoors like hiking and biking and walking and running, and I exercise every day, and read and journal, and I focus a lot on myself personally with growth and development so that I can be there for other people. I can show up better for other people. So I guess that's a long answer, but that's kind of who I am, I think.
No, for you being alive for what, 27 years now? Is
Yeah,
that right?
27.
So, no, I think that's I think you covered probably just the bare minimum of it. But honestly, I think that just already off the cusp, there's a lot of things in here that this is exactly why I told Colin that I could say that there are a lot of things that I look up to about you and the way that you carry yourself, or am inspired by the things that you do. And a lot of these things, Colin and I, it's funny you say these, because these are exactly the things that we assumed you liked when you say you like looking for success. Success leaves clues. Maybe not looking for success, but looking for the clues to success, as well as learning and seeing from others and adapting and focusing on a lot of growth. So touching on that, where does this come from? For Rob Rottler, where does this come from?
Question. That's a really great question. Throwing me back. Honestly, I think a lot of growth comes from a source of pain at some point. And for me, what that was probably maybe a year into teaching. I was a year into my professional adult life, and I had read this book. My grandma gifted it to me. It was a huge turnaround for me. It was like one of the first ever personal development books I ever read. It was Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. Anyway, so I read that and I was like, oh, this is great. I don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer or someone in one of these high earning jobs to be financially, well off or free or whatever. Like, how exciting. I can do this as a teacher. This will be great. I'll just have to be smarter with what I do with my money. So I was trying to do it for about a year, and I was just having struggles and checking my bank account every now and then, and I was like, man, we're not saving that much more money. We're not working the system very well. Like, this is something's got to give here. Like, this isn't working. I feel like I'm on the rat race type of thing. And so that went on for a while, and it was painful to just feel like, man, I'm never gonna quote unquote make it, or I'm never gonna do well enough with the way this is working. Something's got to change. So what happened was I started looking for jobs that I could do in the summer. I was teaching during the year, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to make a bunch of money in the summer, and will fix itself. So I remember Googling one day after a lot of frustration, jobs for teachers in the summer or something, highest paying jobs for teachers in the summer. And I stumbled across real estate investing. And that led me to Bigger Pockets, which, are you familiar with Bigger Pockets at all?
No.
It's almost like a community of real estate investors that has forums and blogs and books and articles and webinars and seminars and every sort of education tool you might need. An awesome podcast, might I add, to learn about real estate investing. And it was like some of the savviest teachers will invest real estate in the summer, or they'll flip a house in the summer, they'll sell it in the fall or whatever, and then they'll just do that every summer. And I was like, all right, this is great. That's what it's going to be. So I started studying real estate investing like crazy. I listened to every single one of those podcasts. There was hundreds of them. And I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. I started picking up on, like I said, success leaves clues. Every single one of these people on these podcasts that were doing huge deals and a lot of transactions and, making a lot of money and living the dream, what I thought, they were all reading these self-help books and personal development books, and they were focused on their habits and they were intentional in what they were doing every day. And I figured out it was these little things that they're doing every day, these little habits. It wasn't anything extraordinary. Anybody could do it, even if you didn't graduate high school. So I'm like, this is it. This is going to be the long game. I thought real estate was great. Everything macroeconomics looks good in that, real estate is pretty steady, and there's a bunch of different benefits to investing in real estate. So that was it. I committed to it, but I knew two things. I didn't have money, and I didn't know a dang thing about real estate. So then I was like, okay, how am I going to fix this? And I started looking things up, like, how do I learn more about real estate? How do I make money so I can invest it in real estate? And then I just, boom, real estate agent. So started studying for that, got my license. But long story short, that's how I got to be a real estate agent, eventually real estate investments, and a lot of different things along the way. But it was that pain point. To get back to your question, very long-winded answer.
No, this is awesome.
The pain point was that I wasn't saving enough money. I was spending too much. Felt like I was in a rat race, and I had to turn something around, and there we went.
Sorry, I'm taking notes over here. So as far as, yeah, dude, because honestly, because there's so much the average person would think you're crazy for taking a risk like this. Brother, you were a teacher for a year?
Well, total, I was in teaching for 2.5 years. I did just teaching for 1 year. Then I did just teaching for 1.5 years, along with some coaching. Then I became a realtor, and I was doing realtor and teaching for a year, and then I jumped in and just went full bore into real estate. But yeah, that's a good point. You know, it's risky. I just always think I'm young and I really, really trust my ability to figure things out. And I really know I've just of hearing so many successful people say it. If you wait until you're ready, until you're fully ready to do something, you're never going to do anything. If you want to live a bigger life, you got to take these risks and you got to jump and you got to trust yourself and your ability to figure things out. And and that's kind of how I've been. That's still how I am to this day.
No, and people, this brother did a 100K race as well.
100-mile race. Yeah, this is
Oh yeah, 100 mile. Yes, man. I mean, were you ready for that? As while we're having you drop nuggets, were you ready to do that when you did it?
No, I mean that race to me. I mean that was just everything. When COVID came around, actually to start off 2020, my goal was to run a marathon, and I had one scheduled here in Dubuque, and then COVID came. The gym shut down, so I really dove into the running, and then the marathon got canceled. And there was only one other local race here around Dubuque to do last year, and it was either 100K or 100 miles, and I was running like crazy, and that's how I tend to do. I just tend to go all in on certain things. When I'm really focused on something, I'm all in on it. I'm focused, and so I just really focused on running last year, and away we went, and I ran the 100 miles, and I wasn't as prepared as I should have been, but figured it out. Had fun, learned a lot. I think I'll do it again.
All right. So anyway, there's so much. I mean, I'm loving this because there's so much to unpack. But you're way more of a dog than I probably should have. I probably should explain more, but that's all right. People will figure that out clearly. So for you, two parts to this because I actually where I was going with that one question where I love how you started diving into pain because that touches a lot of people, including myself. I feel you on that. But as far as that drive, you had drive way before you even got to college. Clearly, otherwise you would have been able to play college sports. So when you talk about pain, when you talk about being motivated as well, like I guess that Rob, that for people to kind of dig into that, Rob, were you always somebody that was easily self-motivated like this? Did you have somebody that you looked up to that you're like, this is exactly who I aspire to be like, or was it like a combination of things?
Yeah, a combination of things. When I was growing up, I I was around athletics a lot, and my parents had a huge impact on me from the start. Um, they were just they wouldn't settle for average at anything. You know, they wanted exceptional. They wanted to see effort in everything, and it came down to attitude and effort, and they wanted me to focus on those things. And as long as I was giving my effort to whatever it was that was important to me at the time, um, then it was good by them. They liked it, and so I don't know. I kind of realized, if my parents were happy with me, it made life a lot easier. So I was like, okay, what do my parents like to see from me? They like to see me focused and working hard on important things, and so that became, school and athletics and um, you know other things around the community as a young kid. So I suppose it went all the way back to there where it was like, okay, I need to work hard at things, and if I don't work hard, then I'm not going to have the success that I could potentially have. Um, so yeah, I mean, now all of my energy and efforts are channeled more so towards like personal and professional growth. Um, in any way that looks any given day or whatever. But back in the day, I was really focused on sports, and then that took me over to college. And in college, I was focused on lifting weights and playing football, and probably not class as much as I should have. Uh, so, I mean, I excelled at lifting and playing football, and I thought I did pretty well there. So I was happy with it. But yeah, just kind of what I focus on, putting in the effort, putting in the work has always been there. Just been a different focus from time to time.
Sure. Well, yeah, that those are obviously selfish. Now to transition more into what you do on a professional level, of course, I wanted to get there, but grabbing nuggets along the way is definitely, it's selfishly for me, it's good. So, as far as you and transitioning into, from part time to full time, what would you say that process is best like for somebody who would be doing the same thing as you, or maybe the advice that you have given yourself? um what is that transaction, is that same transition, not transaction, same transition going to be the same moving forward for other people, or is it always changing?
Ah, man, that's a really good question. Here's what I'd say from my experience. For me, I talk to people quite a bit, investors especially, who want to go into it full time. You know, I'm so dang happy and energized and excited to get up and do real estate every day, because that's my passion. I'm so into it, and I love real estate. And I remember back to my teaching days, there'd be times when I wouldn't be teaching, or I'd have some downtime at school, and I would think about real estate. Or like on my way to and from school, I'd think about real estate or something, that my next thing there. And if you're doing that constantly, that's a sign, I think, to where like that's where, if your mind is constantly going there, and it's not just a 1 day or a 1 week thing, see what you can do. See if there's any practical way where you can make that something you do full time. So for me, what that looked like was, okay, if I quit teaching, when would be my last paycheck? Just getting really down to the nitty gritty. When would be my last paycheck? How much money would I have in the bank? How much would I have in savings? What if I didn't sell a single house for 6 months? Would I be able to survive? How much money would I have? What's plan B? So getting a real plan in place for if worst case scenario happens. And if worst case scenario happens and you play it out, and you have a few third parties look at it, so it's not your bias on what you think you know might happen. You have some people who have been in the business, they look at it and it's like, yeah, that's a reasonable worst case scenario. If you have that much in savings and you go full time and you don't have any more W2 paycheck, you should be able to make it work, because you'll probably have a sale in the first 6 months. And if you don't and you still have some money, you're good. So I'd say plan for the worst, but then just prepare for the worst, so that way if it does happen, you'll be okay. And then that way you don't have to worry about it so much that first 6 months if you're transitioning. And I think that goes for anything, whether it be real estate or um, any other job, anything you want to go into where you're a solo entrepreneur or whatever. If you crunch those numbers in the worst case scenario, if you don't have a good 6 months or a year, and you're still able to operate and live, cover your bills and eat, you know, give it a jump. I mean, you're going to be so much happier, energized, and you're going to be way more focused. And whenever you're aligned with the long-term vision for your goals, I think everything else just kind of falls into place. So that's my suggestion to anybody who's looking to transition maybe into a full-time realtor, or just anything full-time where you're losing your W2, and it's a risk like that.
So that gives me my next question. What does a day in the life typically look like for you when doing that? Uh, when doing what you're doing, or when I guess first, what was a day in the life like for you when you first transitioned into it? And while you were doing it, were you thinking, what if I have to pack this in and go back? Will I have an option to get back into school?
Ooh, love that question. Actually, okay, yeah, I'll get into the day to day on what it is now, what it was then, and then also the thought of going back to school. But first, going back to school, that's like, there's some people, influencers, professional development people who will articulate this way better than I'm about to, but Gary Vee especially, that's the worst case. Worst case. You go for your dream, you shoot for the stars. 6 months later, a year later, you're struggling. Worst case scenario, you go get that W-2 again. Like, I know as a teacher, I can go get another teaching job, or I can substitute, or I can find another job. Everywhere is hiring, right? So that's what I tell. That's something where, I might be taking a big risk, but risk versus reward. There's so much more upside here than downside. Downside is I go back to where I was. Day in the life then, when I did transition into full-time real estate. So I always wake up early. I'm a huge morning routine guy, and I work out in the morning, and then I try to get to work early. And the first hour is really focused on some things that my important daily tasks that I put my phone away. I don't open up my laptop, no email, nothing like that. I'm just focused for the first hour on the few daily crucial tasks. And then after that, I'm I'm checking into the MLS, looking at houses that may have come on the market overnight or something like that. And
What was
then
that
I'm
term?
looking
Sorry, what was that term?
MLS, multiple listing service. That's anything a realtor lists for sale, any houses. So I'm checking that. If I have a buyer who's looking for something that's been listed overnight, I send it to them. Then the next hour, I am reaching out to people who, buyers or sellers who maybe we need to update, or maybe we need to talk about next steps, or maybe I haven't talked to them in a week or two and we just need to catch up. Then after that, I'm thinking about people who I may know in the area who, maybe we need to meet up. Maybe we should have a coffee, get a beer, or just talk about real estate. Or maybe we had lunch last week and I follow up with them. After that, I'm looking to schedule meetings with different professionals in the area, whether I'm meeting with my attorney or lender, or a different lender, or an investor, or somebody else in the real estate field, that maybe we sit down, I buy them a coffee and I ask them some questions and see how I can help them. Those type of phone calls happen. So phone calls then for the next hour. Beyond that, I'm spending the rest of my morning, and really a lot of the rest of my day, working on the business. So the first couple 3 hours are working, um, I guess, are my daily habits, I guess. Beyond that, I'm working on the business unless I have a meeting or I have a showing or some sort of appointment. So that is what I do now. And it's what I did then, except for then I had a lot less meetings and showings. So I was spending a lot more time working on the business, growing the business, versus the actual work in the business, which is like meeting and showing and listing property, and finding out what people want to buy and that sort of thing. So I guess there's a lot there.
No, no, this is I got it all. I mean, habits. What you did. I mean, this is huge. I didn't know any of this stuff. You know, one of the things that I admire that most people probably would just right off the bat think, man, this guy's locked in, but two, can I do this just based off the simple fact that he doesn't look at his phone or computer for as soon as he wakes up? That's huge too. Looking at the MLS, the multiple listing services, reach out to buyers and sellers, then talk to people who you may know, then lenders, attorneys, all that. And then the rest of the morning is going and working on your business or meeting. So yeah, no, I definitely got all that. When you say working on the business, I guess just for clarification for myself, what does that mean to you, or a dummy, like myself,
Yeah.
maybe? What does that mean?
Yeah, you're no dummy.
I
Work.
appreciate it.
So, but yeah, I appreciate the question. So, work on the business, work in the business. So, working on the business would be anything to progress the business, systems, processes, um, anything that I think is going to grow the business. And then working in the business, I classify as anything that's like right now, this is the business, this is the appointments, the meetings, everything that's within the business right now that, I had maybe been working on the previous 6 months or whatever that's happening right now, that's in the business. So I like um, I like working in the business, um, meeting with people and talking those sorts of things. But I also like working on the business from time to time, but I just try to get a little mix of both every day.
Sure. So were you taught like a plan? Like, okay, so did you start working for a certain institution first and then went on your own? Did you have a mentor that gave you this game? Was this routine in your head that you're like, Rob, this, because one thing I know, I'm a part-time entrepreneur. I'm no full-time. So for me, I don't know really the depths in which you go through mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So, for yourself, what I've heard when you go full-time, when you some people may let go of that employee habits that are actually really good for you that keep you on task, and once you like go and become your full-time boss or become your own boss, all of a sudden everything comes out the window. You're checking ESPN, Sports Center, you think life's great. You're over here thinking I make my own schedule, I can build it whenever I want, I'll do this later. And then noon comes by and you haven't done anything yet. And it's like, so who taught you this, or did you just teach yourself? You just knew it.
And the exact system, there's actually this book. It's called Ninja Selling. Um, Phenomenal book for realtors only. If you're not a realtor, it probably wouldn't be worth a read. But that book, along with just so many other books and podcasts and things that I follow, just made it very, very clear, crystal clear, going back to those Bigger Pockets podcast days, early in this kind of journey I've been on. Everybody who's doing big things has daily habits, systems, rituals, and disciplines. And they might not be crazy or huge, but they have them. And so, and to answer your question, yeah, I mean, the majority of people, when they get rid of their W-2 and some of the habits that they have with that, tend to slip and get a little bit lackadaisical with things, maybe roll into the office at 9 or 9:30, 10:30, and sleep in and just enjoy all these things. Oh, I can go on a 2-hour afternoon walk or whatever. But that, for me, that's motivation, because I know that's not how I operate, and that's gonna be a separator for me. And that was all the more reason to get into it. I knew if I set myself a schedule and a discipline and a routine that I could see myself sticking to, I would stick to it. And where a lot of people might struggle with that, that's one of the things that helps me succeed.
So you just went full time into working for yourself then, or did you work for another institution?
So, as a realtor, you have to work for 2 years under a company, and then you could go make your own company if you want, or you can stay working under a company. So I started out at a company here in Dubuque, and uh, and then after about a year, I learned about the company that I'm currently at, Rule and Rule Realtors. Amazing company, love working for them. Great culture, you can't replace culture. And so yeah, now I'm working for that company, and yeah, so they have the name brand, and they spend a lot on marketing and advertising and website and all these sort of things. And then I kind of come in, technically an independent contractor, so I get paid like a 1099 tax return, but I'm underneath their, I guess, umbrella of a company.
So they kind of gave you at least a little bit of training. Most of it you learned on your own, and you learned the task thing, the habits, the disciplines. That was an immediate. Maybe they were reminders every now and then, but
Yeah.
they kind of gave you the game a little bit.
Yeah, and I totally missed that. Rule and Rule does a phenomenal job with training. I had just a year under my belt before I got there, so I didn't quite get the ground up training through them. But like I said, I've picked up so much. When I'm focused on something, I listen to podcasts constantly. I read constantly on the subject. I'm blogging and on YouTube and everything, just trying to learn as much as I can. And so then, at the time when I just committed to being a realtor, that was all I thought about and focused on in my free time for, I don't know, 6 months beforehand. And so, yeah, I picked up things along the way, and I still add things and take some things away, if I feel like they'll help me.
So just the average, for me, a lot of us that may tune into this may be either from Wartburg or from my high school. And then, of course, family, friends that'll tune into the podcast, So as far as support goes, or word of mouth, or how do we tune into your business specifically? Like, Rule and Rule is great, but how do I go through Rob if I were to go through anybody? Like, why would I go through anybody but you? How do I do that?
How? Well, normally it just starts with a conversation. If somebody is looking to buy or sell or invest in real estate anywhere in Dubuque County, Jackson County, I can help with that. And, basically it's, we'll have a conversation, but then we'll sit down and we'll meet, and I'll kind of show what I do, my systems, my processes, and if that works for you and it's, it feels like it'll be a good working relationship and I feel like I can truly help somebody achieve their goals in real estate in some way, I'll tell them, and then, we can move forward. And the way I do business isn't perfect for everybody, and that's okay too. So, but normally it just starts with a regular conversation or phone call. Prefer to meet up, but yeah, I do business in Dubuque, only in Iowa, so nothing Wisconsin or Illinois. I can do business anywhere within Iowa, technically. I'm just not that, like, real estate's local. Like, Dubuque is different than Cedar Rapids and Quad Cities and Des Moines and everything else. So, if somebody wants me to help them write a contract on something in Des Moines, I can do that, but I won't be as helpful to you on what I think the value of the place is and different things to look out for. It's just totally different in different cities. So I prefer to stay around Dubuque. That's where I'm most helpful to my clients. But then I guess the other thing is I do have a podcast myself. I do. My podcast is called Real Estate in the Tri-State. Tune in. It's a educational podcast. I try to be educational and just have. I've had some of the best people in real estate in Dubuque on, and they tell their whole story and how they do things. And I've learned a ton, and I hope listeners do too.
Yeah, one more plug. So, Real Estate in the Tri-State for your podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So, what is, as far as your goals for a year, 5 years, 10 years from now? Well, what is Rob Rottler looking at when he looks at his career currently and just what he's on pace for? Do you think that far? Do you think it's not healthy to look that far? What do you believe?
Good question. I think no, I think it's good to have like someday visions and goals and dreams and bucket list type things. Um, you know, within the next 3 years, I want to have $5,000 a month coming in passively through real estate investments. Um, and then beyond that, someday I want to have $100,000 monthly passive income through real estate. So it's something that I follow a lot of people who have achieved that. And like I said, just constantly picking up little nuggets, just trying to learn from these people. Just trying to follow the clues that they're leaving, man. What about you?
No,
The people need to hear your goals too.
not on this cast. This is about Rob.
Oh, come on.
Maybe on another one day. We'll see if my story is valuable enough. But I appreciate that.
I'll go for it. I'll do.
um, and not to, this isn't supposed to. I appreciate you passing the energy on to me in the spotlight, and but with that though, honestly, there's just a lot of value in what you do, and I really do wish Gib was on this call because he actually works in real estate a little bit as well. So maybe there might be a part two, to where it could be a little bit more educational, and maybe I'll be able to do more research as well into the things that you gave me here on this call and be able to ask more. For an educational piece, and kind of one of my last questions that I would ask, what would be one or two, educational things that, you feel like would be good for somebody expert and new to know that you've learned? Something that could go way over my head too. It could go way over my head, but somebody who actually knows anything about real estate.
Real estate related?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, real estate. I got you. Okay. All right. So here's something that people really, really need to know. I have people come up to me, especially my old friends that I used to see all the time in high school and college, and just people who knew me before real estate, and they're like, "Dude, how are you doing this with real estate?" And like I said at the very beginning, it does not take a miracle. You don't have to be a genius. It doesn't take, every single waking out minute of your energy and effort to get into real estate. People get hung up on the money. What really, really matters is the deal. In real estate, what really matters is the deal. If you develop the skills to analyze a deal and be able to identify a good deal, all you got to be able to do then is be able to speak on that deal, why it's a good deal, how it's a good deal, and what your plan would be to make a bunch of money on it. And then you tell people about it, and the money will come. You'll be able to get the money if the deal's good enough. If the deal's good enough, you'll have people with money knocking on your door trying to get in on that deal with you. For example, the most recent deal I did, I needed to raise money for it. I did not have enough money for the down payment, not even close. And because I've been into this for so long and I've been studying it for so long, I knew that I would have some people that I could go to. If I had the right deal, they've got money, but it's got to be a good deal. So all I had to do, I get this deal locked up, I figure out how to present it, why it's a good deal. I tell these people, hey, I got a deal. You want to check it out? I show it to them. They bring the money, I bring the deal, and you have yourself a real estate investment. So people get hung up like, man, it will take me 15 years to save up for a down payment to just get my first property. You don't need to do that. Focus on developing skills on how to analyze a deal and the different terms and how to speak on the deal. And then meet people who are in real estate. Those are the three big things.
To kind of come to a close with something that would be valuable, somebody who would trust you over, maybe they might be skeptical of a person. Is there certain ways that you could see a deal is, there's bad apples everywhere. There's bad apples in banking. There's good apples in banking, bad apples in real estate, good apples in real estate, bad apples in the hospital, etc. So what warning or clues would you tell somebody? Maybe this would be a better way to structure my initial question. Now, what would be a good rule of thumb as to gauge, am I working with the right person? Am I working with the right deal? Maybe that customer that is working on something and they're nervous even.
Well, make sure you're working with somebody who, I would say, if you're going to invest in real estate, you need 4 core people to be on your team. Call it the core 4. You need a good realtor who invests themselves. You need an attorney who knows what they're doing, who does a lot of real estate specific things. You need a lender who's on board with your vision. You can sit down with and say, hey, Mr. Lender, I don't know a dang thing about real estate, but I'm going to, and here's my plan. Here's what I want to do. Is this going to work? Mr. or Mrs., of course. And then lastly, you need a contractor. You need somebody, handyman contractor, somebody who can do some manual labor if you're not able. So those are the 4 key things you really need to surround yourself with. If you have those 4, you can really go down and you can go take on a lot of real estate deals. How you know a good apple from a bad apple in terms of the actual deal, for me, what that looks like, I look for properties that can be, I guess, value add opportunities. Meaning, you could add a bedroom, you could add a bathroom, you could add a garage, you could add maybe a deck if it makes sense. But I don't want to just buy a house that's in perfectly good shape and hope that the real estate market stays good. Even though I think it will stay good for years and years, we're so far behind on inventory and houses. And I believe in real estate like crazy. I don't want to just rely on appreciation and my tenants not trashing it in order for it to be a good investment. So, ways that you can add value. If the house is distressed and it smells like cat piss, great. That's awesome. Completely full of trash. If it's completely full of trash, but the bones are good and the roof is good and the air conditioning and the furnace and the windows are good and the doors are good, but it's just covered in trash, that's a freaking home run. You get the trash out of there, repaint, put new floors in, boom. It's all automatically worth 50 grand more, depending on your market, of course. But so for me, the way I mitigate risk is just look for value add opportunities. I'm going to buy it, and 6 months later, I'm going to force some appreciation into it. I'm going to force it to be worth a lot more than when I purchased it. That way, if I ever really need to get out, for whatever reason, I have that forced appreciation, whether it be through fixing it up or adding a bedroom, So that would be what I call a good apple, something that you can add value to.
Man. Guys, that is the Rob Rottler. Check him out on Instagram at Rob Rottler Realtor. Rob Rottler Realty. Rob Rottler Realty. Check him out in the tri-state area. Check out his podcast. And Rob, just forgive me for butchering your Instagram handle, but any ways that they can reach out to you. I am super privileged to have you on this call. Blessed. I learned a lot. Honestly, I took like 6 pages of notes. So thank you for all the lessons. And brother, keep killing it because you're inspiring. The reason why we wanted you on this podcast was, one of a couple reasons, which was figure out a way that we could support you. It sounds to me like me being an Ankeny is not going to be a whole lot of benefit, but word of mouth is everything, or at least a big thing. And then also to be selfish and learn from you. And brother, everything from your 100-mile run to your change from being a teacher to being a full-time real estate investor to watching you continually work the business when you do post on social media, which isn't all the time, but when you do, and then also your podcast. So just thank you for being you, because it keeps a chip on my shoulder, just knowing that there's other people out there too that are hungry and driven and focused and just haven't given up on their dream either, so thank you. You.
And I can't thank you enough, man. Like it's such an honor to be on here and talk about this. There's nowhere like this. I love doing this stuff, talking real estate, talking about, all the questions that you're asking. Usually I'm asking other people those things, but it's fun to, like I said, to sit in the other side of the table here and talk about this. As a blessing to be on. And yeah, definitely hit me up. Let's go round two. Seriously. Like, I'll do it any day. So I really had fun. Thank you.
Cool. Yes. All right, guys, that is your next episode of Local Standouts. For checking out. God bless you all. Peace.